Ah, silence. The most misunderstood sound in the world. You know what's wild? It's the one thing they never prepared for. People brace for thunder. They expect the bang, the chaos, the spotlight. They feed on noise, viral videos, clickbait captions, overhyped moments that scream, "Look at me." But you did the unthinkable. You moved like fog over a battlefield, unseen, unannounced, unshakable. You walked in wrapped in shadows and walked out leaving the world stunned. No war cry, no drama, just presence. You didn't scream for attention. You didn't post a selfie mid-victory. You didn't flex. You executed. With precision, with fire, with silence. And that's what terrifies them. Not the volume, not the impact, but the mystery. Because everyone's talking now, but nobody can explain what you just did. They had you figured out, right? They thought you'd fold, that you'd break. They thought you needed an audience to validate your worth. They expected tears, begging, apologies, some desperate plea to be noticed. But you? Nah, you gave them nothing. You didn't react. You didn't argue. You sat in your storm while they danced in artificial light. You held your pain like a weapon, kept your plans under lock and key, and kept grinding in silence when everything inside you was screaming for release. They thought silence meant weakness, but you were just becoming dangerous. They laughed while you were learning. They bragged while you were building. And now? Now they're choking on their own confusion. Because your story, it wasn't told. It was proven. You didn't sell them a dream. You became the nightmare that showed up fully awake. You didn't need their applause. You didn't need the mic. You became the reason they built the stage. And that's different. That's legendary. That's power they can't buy, can't mimic, and sure as hell can't control. See, silence is only scary to those who don't understand what moves in it. People are trained to react to noise. Alarms, alerts, shouts. That's where they find comfort. But when silence starts moving, when it starts shifting the ground beneath them, that's when they freeze. Silence is where predators hunt. It's where legends are made. It's where you were made. You weren't chasing applause, you were chasing a line. You didn't need to be seen. You needed to be ready. While they were performing, you were preparing. While they were talking, you were transforming. Quietly, viciously, completely. Now they're watching. Oh yeah, all eyes on you. But none of them really know what they're looking at. They whisper to each other like nervous analysts. When did it happen? Who helped them? What did we miss? They replay every interaction, every moment they ignored you, trying to figure out where they lost control, but they never had it. You were never in their hands. You were always on your own timeline, moving with purpose, not for validation, but for destiny. And that purpose? It's now echoing in places they swore you'd never reach. They can't process you, because you broke their algorithm. You didn't follow the blueprint. You ripped it apart and wrote your own rules. In silence, in sweat, in scars. You rewrote success with a language only the relentless understand. And the ink you used? Yeah, it's invisible to everyone who's never suffered in silence. Let them talk. Let them wonder. You already did it. And you did it the one way they'll never be able to copy. Silently. This moment right here, this victory, it wasn't born under flashing lights. It wasn't the product of some viral reel or a curated celebration. Nah. This didn't start on a stage. It started in the trenches, in the dark, suffocating nights where your thoughts screamed louder than the world ever could. It was forged in the pain you didn't dare speak aloud, in the heartbreak you hid behind a fake smile, in the tears that dried on your own hands, because no one else was there to catch them. This wasn't some lucky break. This was born in rejection after rejection, in failure after soul-breaking failure, in nights where quitting felt like breathing and continuing felt like drowning. And still, you didn't fold. You didn't run. You stayed. You took the punches, the silence, the emptiness, and you turned it into fire. That's why this win is different. It's not covered in confetti, it's covered in scars. And that's exactly why it hit so hard. Because it came from truth. Because now that you're here, standing in the spotlight they swore you'd never reach, the world can't deny it anymore. They can't downplay it, they can't spin it. You've arrived, and you did it the one way they never respected. Silently. And you know what's wild? They really believed silence meant weakness. They thought if you weren't shouting, if you weren't flexing online, if you weren't broadcasting every step, then you must not be doing anything at all. They didn't realize you were turning into something lethal. You were becoming a ghost in the algorithm, invisible to the noise, but invincible in the mission. A silent killer. No applause, no audience, just precision and purpose. You didn't need to clap back at them. You didn't waste time proving anything. You let your results do the revenge. You let your growth become the violence. And now, it's loud out there. Not because you spoke, but because your silence forced them to. Your transformation forced conversations they were never ready to have. The same people who counted you out, now they can't shut up. They can't stop watching. They can't stop dissecting what you did. That's not just poetic justice. That's divine disruption. That's flipping the entire narrative without ever raising your voice. Let me make something real clear. You earned this. Every second of it. Every inch of progress. Every breakthrough. Every breath. Don't you let a single soul try to rewrite your journey as luck or perfect timing. Nah. This wasn't handed to you. This wasn't scripted. This was suffered for. You bled for this in silence. You broke in silence. You rebuilt in silence. While they were laughing, you were studying. While they were loud, you were locked in. And now? Now you've become something untouchable. You made yourself unrecognizable. Not to escape who you were, but to become who they could never imagine. You became the person no one saw coming. And now they can't catch up. They can't box you in, can't compete, can't control. That's real power, and that's what you are now. You are not a maybe, you are not a fluke. You are the proof, the blueprint, the storm they can't explain, the silence they never respected, now echoing so loud it's shaking their world. So what now? You keep going. You don't pause for their confusion. You don't wait for them to catch up. You keep moving in that same silence that got you here. Because if silence was your weapon, consistency is your war. You're not done. This wasn't the final form. This was just proof. Proof that you don't need their applause to validate your greatness. You only need one thing. That fire in your chest that refuses to die, even when everything else goes dark. That's your cheat code. That's your edge. And let them talk. Let them spin theories. Let them argue about how you pulled it off. Because at the end of the day, they'll never understand. Not because they're dumb, but because you moved on a frequency they've never tuned into. You weren't seeking attention, you were seeking alignment. You weren't chasing clout, you were chasing your higher self. And now that you've caught up with that version of you, ooh, the whole world better watch out. You see, what you did wasn't just a win. It was a message. A message to everyone who thinks noise equals power. A message to every doubter, every hater, every fake supporter. A message that says, I don't need to be seen to succeed. I just need to be solid. That's what makes them nervous. Because now they realize they can't stop what they can't even hear coming. And you're already 10 steps ahead. Quiet, calculated, cruel if necessary. Because silence isn't weakness, it's warfare. You're the storm that made no sound, the earthquake with no forecast, the miracle with no spotlight. You didn't just surprise them, you shattered them, and they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to make sense of it. But they won't, because what you did wasn't logical, it was spiritual. It came from a place they'll never touch, the hunger, the pain, the obsession. The nights you were screaming inside but stayed calm outside. That's not something you can explain. That's something you embody. So wear that silence like armor. Not as something that hides you, but as something that protects you, that defines you. Let it be more than just absence of noise. Let it be your badge, your strength, your crown. Walk into every room like the silence around you is royalty, like every step you take without explanation is a proclamation that you don't owe this world anything but results. Let them stare, let them overthink. Let them wonder what's behind your quiet. Because the truth is, you don't have to explain brilliance. You just live it. And while they sit in groups, analyzing, speculating, running their mouths trying to crack the code of how you got here, you're already moving again, already building again, already becoming something they won't be ready for next time either. You see, there's a difference between noise and power. Noise demands attention, power commands it, and what you're doing now, that's command. While they post, brag, gossip, and flex for people who don't even care, you're making moves. Real ones, quiet ones, ruthless ones. The kind of moves that leave a legacy behind without a single tweet. The kind of decisions that echo through time. The kind of transformation that feels impossible to everyone else until they see you do it. And when you do it, you won't be begging to be seen. You'll be so undeniable, the world will have no choice but to pay attention. Because legends don't ask for the mic. They become the moment. They don't chase history. They write it. Quietly, relentlessly, unapologetically. This is your legacy. And it wasn't built in applause. It wasn't handed to you by validation, permission, or trends. You didn't go viral. You went vital. To yourself, to your vision. You carved this in the silence, in the invisible spaces where no one else was watching, in the dark moments when giving up was tempting, but evolution was louder than quitting. You didn't need recognition to be great. You needed resistance. And the resistance? It built something divine in you, something they'll never replicate. Because this legacy of yours, it wasn't written in headlines or hashtags. It was carved in stone. And stone doesn't beg, it stands. This is your legacy. And it wasn't built in applause. It wasn't handed to you by validation, permission, or trends. You didn't go viral. You went vital. To yourself, to your vision. You carved this in the silence, in the invisible spaces where no one else was watching, in the dark moments when giving up was tempting, but evolution was louder than quitting. You didn't need recognition to be great. You needed resistance. And the resistance? It built something divine in you, something they'll never replicate. Because this legacy of yours, it wasn't written in headlines or hashtags. It was carved in stone. And stone doesn't beg. It stands. You didn't scream your greatness into the world, you became it. In movements too subtle for the shallow, in pain too deep for the superficial. You didn't post about the grind, you lived it. Alone, unfiltered. While others were watching the clock, you were losing track of time. While they were trying to impress strangers, you were trying to outgrow the version of yourself you buried last year. This win, it didn't come from luck or noise, it came from self-mastery. And that's something nobody can steal from you. So now let them scramble. Let them lose their minds trying to decode what you've already moved past. Let them build theories, podcasts, debates about how you pulled it off. Because they'll never get it. They'll never truly grasp it. You made it look too smooth. Too graceful, too calculated. You made the impossible look inevitable. And you didn't do it to prove anyone wrong. You did it to prove yourself right. And that's why it hurts them. Because your silence wasn't just strategy. It wasn't just patience. It was a statement. A loud, unshakable statement. And now? Now, the silence speaks louder than ever. Because you didn't just survive the noise. You became the silence that ends it. So let them talk. Let them chase shadows. You already did what they said was impossible. And you did it without making a sound. Now walk off, head high. Because real legends don't need applause. Just results.